Ooh, warming my hands. Rainy days, time to make a video. Oh. You know, the reading of the writing can wait. You know what it's like. I always say next video, and then, you know, I should stop saying that. It can wait. It's raining, so I can't work, and I'm reading an awesome book, actually, a really awesome book. It's like this book is one of a pair for me. One of them is called, or one of them is about the Yamabushi, and the other one is about the ninja. And they're very different to what you might expect. I'll definitely talk about them at some point in the future. I actually bought Varg's Paganism Explained, Part 1, which is Prim's Kvitha. And it's really interesting from the point of view that he's saying that the mythology or the particular myth concerning Thor cross-dressing, that particular one, the whole thing is like a metaphor for the processes of sexual union, birth, and the growth of the child in the womb, and all of the gooey details given metaphorical, symbolic replacements. This book is a weird one, really, because it starts off, well, first of all, you pay, I mean, I paid about £6 for this, including the postage and packing, which I thought, oh, that's pretty good. And then I found out that it's like, there's literally just a few paragraphs in it. It's less than a normal chapter of a normal book, a lot less. But the idea is that it focuses your attention on that particular. It's been a few days since I read it, and I must admit, I don't know, you know, in intimate detail about the process of. Do you know what? It actually almost brings a tear to my eye, actually, because it's a really precious and beautiful thing. And I know that at some point I should learn more about biology, not just the you know, the fun bits, but, you know, the things that go on inside. It's funny how ignorant we all are of so many things, you know. It says here, gods and goddesses. Our forebears' belief in spirits and reincarnation naturally comes into conflict with the Christian scholars that tell us about. There's this whole anti-Christian thing going on, which is understandable. I do sympathise with that in many ways, the anti-Abrahamic, if you like, and yet at the same time, we're too bound up in it. We're too caught up in it. We can't completely separate. And, you know, there is some wisdom in there. You know, you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You can't even distinguish the baby from the bathwater. In certain respects. In other respects, the division is obvious, of course. The entire effort is based around locating where Santa Claus lives, so to speak. So there's this analogy made to Santa Claus, like children believing in Santa. And I believe what the book is getting at, I can't comment too much on whether I think that the analogy of the biology is exactly correct, but I like the idea of it. I think that at some point in the future I will come back to this, having learnt about these processes, and I will give it my full attention. So as an idea, as a book that stimulates a thought process, it's really interesting. Now, right, just reminding myself, just a quick flick through. The Haminya is the myth here. Yeah. obviously written down by Christians, as it all is. Yeah, imagine that you are a child again and you still believe in Santa Claus. When your parents tell you about the Yule traditions, you see them from the perspective of a child, innocent but also ignorant. When you grow older, you understand that there is no Santa Claus and you see reality. You have passed a test. You have turned around and can now see what is causing the shadows on the wall in front of you to dance. Obviously, they're making an analogy to Plato's cave there. Our mythology must be understood in this light. The purpose is not to make people believe in fictional entities and fantastical events. The purpose is not to make people believe the shadows dancing on the wall are real. The purpose is to educate and to distinguish the wheat from the tares or something. I've never come across. I should have looked that up, shouldn't I? I've been busy. This explains the purpose of our mythology, but it also explains why the tradition of our forebears was replaced by Christianity and some places Islam. The native European tradition was a system of tests, and only the best would pass those tests and become initiated. When the native European man diminished because of the domestication of animals, agriculture, and later civilization, fewer and fewer native Europeans were able to pass those tests, and to more and more of them, their tradition remained a belief in Santa Claus. So we're kind of in agreement concerning the issue of domestication, and I must admit that Varg influenced me in this respect, which I'm very grateful for. Now, as soon as someone sees that you bought a book by Varg Vikernes, I just want to say, chill out, I mean, I don't care what he's got up to in his past. It's nothing to do with me. And his views, we would definitely disagree on certain things and strongly agree on others. And I really, really dislike this whole idea that you should. Well, you know what I'm talking about. That whole the demonization of ideas because of the modern immediate inclination to jump in horror at people that stand on the threshold. Now, people who you might regard in some ways as a bit crazy, a bit on the edge, and a bit extreme, have insights into things that others don't. I know this personally. So it's important to get things in proper context. Everyone should be able to say whatever the hell they like, and whatever happened that day, its fate has played itself out. And anyone that is enthusiastic about paganism and the meaning of European, ancient European belief structures, I'm going to read and I'm going to listen, and I don't have to agree with everything. I don't have to, and put it this way, sometimes you'll find out that it's ever so slightly different from the immediate judgment has delivered upon the public consciousness. So what I'm saying is basically bollocks. I read what I like, and so what I'm picking up is he's kind of saying that you have to decode the myths, and that the gods are inside you. And if he believes in reincarnation, which I do as well, to be honest, but I think it's very likely, very complicated, and not always straightforward, and and sometimes I think certain rules can be perhaps subverted, or things can turn out differently depending on the situation. I'm sure it's it's just a whole nother subject, isn't it? And worthy of serious consideration and integration. So reincarnation implies a belief in the eternal spirit to be reincarnated, through, the ancestral line, this kind of thing. So the presence of spirit itself, to me, would imply that you should be taking the gods not just on that level of myths which teach principles and lessons concerning wisdom and the patterns of nature and all this kind of thing. I'm not clear on this perspective, whether he's kind of atheist in a way. You see, I can definitely say I think that there's something missing from this, or I'm very confident that there is something missing from this perspective, that a knowledge of meditation and the kind of thing that we can pick up from, even me, just a cursory but important interest in what I've read about the Yamabushi and this kind of thing. I think you would have to admit that if you're not engaged in a really serious, permanent spiritual practice which is extremely disciplined, then you're not able to comment on whether the gods exist or not. You're not. Reincarnation. You see, this is paganism. The word itself, the country people, that kind of, whatever it means, something like that. I'm sure you'll know what I mean. How far do they need to take it? Reincarnation, patterns of nature, that kind of thing. But there are those that stand outside of the rural society, the weirdos on the edge. These are the shamans. These are the people who feel the calling. These are the people who will dedicate their lives to consciousness techniques. These are the people who will walk into the woods and receive communion. These are the people that notice in the patterns of nature certain properties and powers that can be harnessed. These are the people who make, or at least make the effigies come alive. These are the people who would be able to have a more qualified opinion concerning the gods. This is what I would say. I would go so far as to say, if you're not involved in a serious spiritual discipline and you have no long-term magical experience, then you can't know. You may have faith in what you see from others. You may think, well, so-and-so has this skill, or such and such happened, and that's not possible without some kind of intervention. You can have a faith in the same way, this Christian faith is a faith in protection and, elevation towards goodness and, in theory, and this kind of thing. But to have direct knowledge is a tricky thing, because you cannot pass on the understanding. You can only advise someone else in terms of how to approach the path. And if the calling isn't there, in other words, if you're not a weirdo, then you will likely be distracted back towards the you know, whatever the rural stock are up to, you will join back in with the cattle. And I do not mean that in a derogatory sense. I mean, this book implies that there are levels of knowledge. So what I'm doing is I'm saying that there is a level of knowledge beyond this book, and that is the real lived experience of spiritual properties which do not present themselves as human, which can be interacted with, and such energies which can be manipulated, which deeply embed a faith and belief. And indeed, one can personally state a knowledge, a belief and a certainty in the existence of the gods. See, levels, stages, hierarchies. Varg Vikernes, you know what? I probably disagree with you on many things. You don't care, I don't care. We probably agree on many things. You don't care, I don't care. If I met you, I'd shake your hand. And you see, anyone who can be bothered to write music, anyone who can be bothered to write a book, anyone that can be bothered to write a role-playing game, this is a creative man. This is, you know, whatever may have happened in the past, the karma has already played itself out. So it's important to not have a political limit on your capacity to be open to ideas. Whatever. It's raining. Hope it stops. I've got work to do.